The largest employer in the Brazos Valley and the economic engine of this thriving community now has its choice to be its leader going forward. A little more than a year since Arbo and Lofton left Texas A&M, and the Aggies have looked to the man who leads the Huskies of the University of Washington. Michael K. Young named the lone finalist for the A&M presidency yesterday. We talked about it yesterday as our news partners at the Texas Tribune broke it earlier in the day. And yesterday we brought you some of Young's thoughts on higher education. In a statement you can read at kbtx.com, he said, quote, "Deciding to be a candidate for the presidency of Texas A&M University was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. I was not looking to leave the University of Washington, but the allure of the recruitment process led to conversations in which the opportunity to bring new leadership and fresh ideas to another outstanding university presented itself with some force." Robert Gates led Texas A&M for much of the 2000s before being called back to Washington, D.C. as Secretary of Defense under two presidents, and he has spent a lot of his time since his secretary stint in Washington state. In a statement of his own, Gates said, quote, "In Mike Young, the Board of Regents have selected a leader of national stature in higher education, as well as someone with a broad and diverse background. I am confident he will lead Texas A&M to even greater successes in the future. And I am also impressed with his focus on the needs and interests of students as well as on the research enterprise. I believe he will be a great fit for Texas A&M. The chancellor of the Texas A&M system is John Sharp. He took questions from the media after the system Board of Regents voted to name Young as the lone finalist.
Tons of applicants. They vetted each one very carefully, made sure that when it was somebody that came from a campus, they called into that campus, talked to faculty, talked to administrators, wanted to know everything about them. When they came from business, we looked into those businesses, talked to Aggies within that worked in those businesses, everybody that we could, vetted folks very well. But in all the process, we never quite got a candidate like Michael Young. Michael Young was different. Michael Young is considered one of the very top AAU presidents that exist anywhere in the country. It was really, one thing that happened that was really interesting was one of the search committee members called a friend of his at Harvard and said, "I want you to know, we're thinking about hiring this guy, what do you think?" And the guy at Harvard said, "What, some kind of joke or something?" And, you know, we're thinking about hiring this guy 2 years from now. He's one of the people that we're watching. And they said, "No, I think he's coming to Texas A&M." I said, "No, whoever's telling you that's an idiot, it's not going to happen." We knew by that time that he was. But I think when he came the first time, it was that meeting with the students. One of them was a Yale leader. I can't remember who the other was. Kyle Kelly set up the meeting. They didn't know who he was. He didn't know who they were. And they sat around and they talked about tradition. They talked about being a student here. They talked about the faculty and things like that. And it was that meeting with the students that he came back and said, "I want to be around these kids. They're special. Y'all probably don't know how special they are, but you don't find these students everywhere in the world." And I think he spent a lot of time to Equine Center. He spent a lot of time with engineering, going around. It was a miracle that the people that took him around, there were probably about 15 of them, kept their mouths shut to you guys for that whole period of time. And he and his wife thought about it and said, "This is where we want to make our impact." And he came here, he saw a university that was the largest research university in the southwestern United States. In many respects, our competition is not in this state anymore. And he said, this is the place that has the potential that I want to end my career in. Fortunately, we have Mark Hussey, who's one of the best administrators I've ever seen. And Mark not only gave this committee the ability to take its time and really be thorough, but also gives this committee the ability to wait until the new president has got all of his ducks in line and is ready to come here. We expect him to be here shortly to meet with the community, meet with the faculty, administrators, and folks at A&M. I know he wants to get here as soon as he can get away from Seattle. He has a board meeting coming up pretty quick there, his last one, presumably. And then he wants to come here and start getting to know Aggie family.
Can you briefly outline his compensation package?
He and I are negotiating that right now. What part of this motion does is allows us to do that. He will be, I can tell you, will be paid according to his stature. He will be one of the best paid, college presidents in the state of Texas. I mean, he probably won't make what a, assistant football coach makes, but he'll make a darn good salary for a college president. Will be one of the finest paid ones in the country, and we would expect that of someone of his stature.